going to leave.
John, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we were wondering where you are.
Oh, I'm just staying out of the way here.
What town are you in while you're staying out of the way?
I'm in Florence.
That's what we, okay, you were right. Well,
It is quite a view.
yes.
That's why I thought so
I've never
too.
been to Florence. I've been to other parts of Italy, but never Florence.
Florence and Siena, my friend was doing study abroad. Well, I was doing study abroad in France, and so I went to visit her and stayed in Florence and
Oh,
in Siena. It was okay.
You've read Playing for Pizza.
You gave it to me, yes. It's
Yeah,
in my
right,
office, yeah.
'cause that's really fun. It's so fun. If you,
Let me know if you hear a lot of background. I hit mute a lot.
8:58. The weather thing on the bottom of the computer says dense fog. Depending on where you are in the street.
the park branch down, the park branch, it was pretty sunny, but by the
I was gonna say, it's fun in here, and it was beautiful at my house. And I assume it's nice in Florence.
Oh, I don't know, Mike. You need to turn your microphone off for him to hear you. Red light.
I know, there we go. I assume it's nice in Florence?
Very nice today. Yes, it's
Good.
beautiful. It's been a great 2 weeks so far.
Ah. I knew you were going to like Como afterwards, so.
No, we went there first. We went
Oh,
to
did you
Como.
like that? Because that's a place I've always wanted to go.
I love it. Had a place with a balcony overlooking the lake and spent so much time there.
Ah.
Took the train to St. Moritz. Was a great day. You know, took train up then back again through the mountains. It's a beautiful trip. Gorgeous. Living the life of retiree.
Are we-
9 o'clock, okay.
We're on. All right, so the meeting please come to order, and we have a roll call.
John Krischer,
Here.
Susan Murphy,
Here.
Phil Pardue.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
All right, you want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, everybody? Oh, if I don't fall over. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, for liberty and justice for all. Okay. Are there any public appearances? No. All right. Announcements from the trustees? None, except that I'm still doing the market, and we seem to be doing fine. And we're not sure about the book sale now. We'll get to that. All right. Any other announcements? All right, it's all yours.
I have no announcements.
Oh, I'm sorry.
John, do you have any announcements?
No, I'm good.
So announcements from the library director. Due to all of our storms, unforeseen circumstances, scheduling issues, I apologize that we don't have our the two applicants starting here. They're going to be pulled in with the rest of the recruitments for boards and commissions. It is the city clerk tried to get the mayor and vice mayor together, but between all of those things over the last few weeks and months, it's proven to be quite a challenge. So we will have more than 3 people. Wheels are in motion. We're not there yet, and I appreciate your patience with the process. And those are all of the announcements I have at this point in time.
Okay. Let's see. Do we need to do any? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, I see. I'm on the. Oh, okay. All right. Public. So is.
I'll be providing the report out from the Carmel Public Library Foundation. Alex was unable to be here, but she provided me with her bullets for the last few weeks of activities. So the annual event, the Educated Edition, there was a full house. The funds are still being tallied, but it appears as if the goal for the fundraising overall has been met. The foundation also received a grant in the amount of $15,000 from Barnett Siegel. The distribution check has been provided to the library. And then library staff and Carmel Public Library staff met with the master plan architects to review where we are since they've conducted their information gathering on all of the fun wires behind the walls and what they think we can do. And so we're working to review that assessment and work on next steps. So I'll continue to have more detailed reports out as we move forward with that project. The Carmel Public Library Foundation has confirmed its slate of officers for next year. The president will be Marcy Moe, Vice President Letty Bennett, Secretary Susan Galvin, Treasurer Carmen Lepian, and Director at Large will be Penny Allen. And they have 5 new board directors who are perspectives for inclusion on the board going forward. So have a number of people terming off, and they want to make sure all those seats are filled. And those are the announcements from the Carmel Public Library Foundation.
Okay.
Any questions that I could see if I can answer some? You never know. No?
No questions.
No,
All
no
right.
questions. Okay, can we have the is there a motion for the approval of the minutes for February?
I move that we approve the minutes for February 22nd, 2023, regular meeting.
I second it.
All those in favor? Do we need to do a roll call?
We do a roll call, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
John Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Phil Pardue.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Okay, Library Foundation, Librarians Report.
So in your packet, you have both of the monthly reports for February and March. Our numbers look good in terms of circulation, foot traffic in the building, program attendance for story times. I do continue to check every month as we tally these, how we're comparing to 2019, 2020, when those numbers are available. And we are, in terms of circulation, factoring in both hard copy and e-materials for both February and March. Our circulation numbers for 2023 year to date for February and March, as I say, we're ahead of where we were in 2019, which is heartening. We were seeing an upswing in circulation starting in 2018, and so we're just picking up where we left off pre-pandemic. Same with foot traffic in the buildings; it reflects that same. So we're not seeing fewer people in the building; they're just using the buildings, I think, a little differently. So, continue to track these trends, continue to track e-usage, and look at where we are in terms of, visit counts, program attendance, and circulation. Any questions about our statistics?
Well, I think it's encouraging that, as the circulation's going up, the electronic books, it's going up. It doesn't seem to be eating away at our physical circulation numbers. I find that encouraging.
I'm finding it encouraging too. I think we're going to continue to see a slower increase in physical materials being checked out, especially as we can incorporate more hours in as we add staff. We're still down 1 full-time body. The goal always to be open Saturdays, but I think we'll continue to see our physical circulation increase.
Do we think that the e-circulation is books that we don't have physically in the library, or are people not going to the library and taking the easy route and getting the e-books?
In some cases, yes, but I think the ebooks are also, a matter of convenience too. In fact, I was just, but when I first got here, was over across the way talking to admin, and one of the staff was asking about Libby because they like to listen to books on their drive-in, and that's a handy way to do that, especially since cars don't have CD players anymore, so we can't actually check out that book maybe to them. It won't work in their car.
Right. Is there an easy way to know if when people are doing Libby, if they're, so I'll use Libby if I'm traveling.
Right.
To get a book. I don't do ebooks, just because I'd rather read. But in general, do we think that people are doing the ebooks more, or are they doing the electronic?
So do you mean like audio versus e?
Exactly.
Yes.
Reading versus listening.
listening is more popular than reading
Okay.
online. So it's listening has
right.
become a big thing. And during the pandemic, when the only thing that you could really do was go take a walk outside,
Right.
that really picked up because of that. But when I look at the little pie charts of the circulation, audios continue to be more popular than actual ebooks.
Okay, so it's supplementary. Okay,
Yes.
the last quick question. How are we doing on zip books?
We're
Are
doing-
people still doing those, or?
Yeah, so we
Okay.
kind of structured that a little bit differently as we've gone in. We don't have any funds coming in from the state, so we kind of combine that with purchase suggestions.
Okay.
So we're evaluating the zip books now with a little bit of criteria, not just purchasing anything and everything that comes in terms of purchase suggestions. But we are still, sending people books to their houses when they fill out a zip book
Okay,
request.
so when somebody puts a zip book request in and it gets disapproved, do we tell them why? Or?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We have a whole email. Yes, we do. Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
Yes.
That's all. Thank you.
And that's all I have for the librarian's report, unless there's any other questions.
No?
I have
John,
one-
you're on.
I have one
Trish?
question. I was really surprised at the foot traffic, the rise in it from February to March was quite significant.
Well,
That was surprising to me.
yeah, so the one thing to take a look at here is our patron visit count. I see it's for the kids department in particular, and then also, well, actually both HML and kids. So in the kids department, you can see an uptick in traffic, especially around school breaks, not just CUSD school breaks, but Pacific Grove and Monterey. We see a bump up, we'll have a week or two where we're flooded with kids all day long instead of kind of an up and down. And then with the main library, with the Harrison Library, March is the month that we started our program series. So that was starting to pick up as well. And we're seeing more use of the gathering place. So overall, higher foot traffic coming in and out of the buildings. And I'm sure all of you are aware that it's starting to feel like the start of summer in terms of tourist traffic. And that is always an uptick as well. People love to come into the library building and take a look at the artwork and tour around. So continue to see those numbers increase.
Well, thank you.
Okay, John, all yours,
That's
treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report. I think to get really into it, right now, with all the budget adjustments and everything we've been going through, it's kind of hard to get a real grip on what's going on. As of now, we're doing really great, but some things look like they're over, but they're not over because we have budget adjustment. Some things that's over, we haven't got billed for. I don't think I'm going to be able to give you a real good report to about June when things kind of straighten out. I can really see what's going on. But right now we're doing good, but with all the budget adjustments, a few things worry, but now I looked in March and now they're okay again. So that's about, I think, the best way to put it. In June, I should have a real good handle on what's going on. As of now, it's a little confusing to me.
So, and I will supplement what John is saying for both February and March. There are a number of, as we've spoken about before these meetings, bills that haven't come due. For instance, I just touched base with our auditor, and I had done so in February, just to say, hey, where's the audit report or the draft audit report, and also where's the invoice for this, because that's something that's outstanding. And we have a couple other subscription bills that come due in May. Funny time of year, but some of those things we signed up for during the pandemic. So those will come in. In addition, with the equipment budget, we have placed our order for movable shelves, but the invoice for that hasn't come due yet. That's $68,000. So those things, I continue to track those, especially as part of the development of the proposed budget for next fiscal year, to make sure that we are indeed on track. And I think I concur with our treasurer that we're looking good, and you'll start to see more of those bills come in and things balance out, hopefully, so that we're, right flush up against spending all of our budget money by the end of June.
Okay. Just Just a general comment, over the years, we've adjusted how we do the report, going through the treasurer's report. It's actually easier, having started out this way, it's easier using the, on page 21 of the packet, 21, it's the, just shows all the different breakdowns there. It's kind of hard to know on this one because I don't know where the actuals are through end of February, end of March, or end of October, but from that you can kind of infer whether you're on glide slope or not, and you can see things moving back and forth. And so, and I think it may be less work for all, but I just throw that out there for the
future
treasurers
reports.
and library directors' consideration.
Very good. Thank you, Phil. Susan, any comments?
No? Okay, John, is there anything else you have on the from the treasurer?
No, I don't. As
Okay,
all the checks I've looked over on the check report, look what I usually see when I sign them. I looked everything over and everything looked normal on that. And I agree with what Phil said about, he just made the statement there. I do agree with him on that.
okay, so we need to approve the check report. So do you want to do another roll call? Or do we need
Make a motion to
Motion.
approve the check reports for February and March 2023.
I'll second that.
John Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
yes.
Phil Pardue.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
All right, and the last one is the proposal for the budget for 23-24.
So Treasurer Krischer and I have been hard at work on the budget since at least early February, and have been working on getting kind of a solid draft in place and examining, our income sources, taking a look back at previous budget and understanding, the implications of the budget adjustments that we did for this year. So first and foremost, we've continued to work to fill vacant positions, expending funds, whether that be, more curated collection development, or program development, any of those things where we be expending funds. We need people to actually do those and to put the time and the thought into that, their professional expertise. Last year, we did fill 2 key vacant positions, which was huge, and that is the technical services librarian and the children's librarian. And this enabled us to expand our hours in both buildings and to really start to move forward on projects like RFID that'll hopefully streamline some of our check-in, check-out processes and inventory. We were able to start up the oral history program again in January, and have conducted, I think, 5 interviews since then. And it would have been more if we hadn't had some staff illnesses and things like that. And then, of course, increased children's programming, which you've seen in terms of foot traffic in the building. One key position at the library remains vacant, and that's head of reference. And head of reference really oversees the development of the adult materials, the hard copy materials collection, and the e-materials as well. There have been 2 failed recruitments, and a 3rd recruitment is currently in process, with current staff being optimistic that this will yield a positive outcome. And hiring just continues to be a slow process, and because of the competitive job market and, again, the high cost of living on the peninsula. As part of the Board of Trustees' work, we did take a look at funds that had been unexpended over the previous fiscal years, and the Board of Trustees approved budget adjustments in December of 2022 and February 2023 for special projects such as the movable shelves in the children's department, additional support for programs as those have begun increasing, especially in the kids department and for summer reading, and then kind of a recalibration of the funds for hard copy and e-materials based on projections as we have been for our monthly spending overall for purchasing in each of the order areas. As I mentioned earlier, I believe that we're on track to expend all the budgeted funds, including those budget adjustment funds, by the end of the fiscal year. Overall, fiscal year 22-23 has been a good year for us fiscally, but some growing pains and some, projects which were good, but definitely a different year than we've seen with the pandemic, where we just really haven't been able to amp up our spending and increase programming. This is the first year we've really been able to do that. Therefore, as part of the fiscal year 23-24 proposed budget, not only because of increases in library activities and programs, but because of increase in costs overall for materials and transport, all of those things, staff is proposing an increase in expenditures across the board. The kids' library now has, we have, in addition to our weekly story time, we have yoga sessions for toddlers, but then also new moms. Friday nights at the library, and then of course we worked with the River School in Tularcitos to do a visit this year from Dan Yacarino, and we're looking at, we had altogether between the two schools, 862 kids participated in that program. So it's great outreach, great relationship building between the library and the school district, and we'd like to continue that as a special program into next fiscal year. And summer reading, of course. Summer reading is one of those funny programs that kind of straddles the fiscal year. We go into July with that program, so most of the bills come due before the end of the fiscal year, but some do come. There's some carryover things. So, and then, of course, we've been actually amping up programs at the Harrison Library. Prior to the start of the pandemic, the staff had been planning starting to plan programs that we could hold using the gathering place, like craft or game nights and small programs. We had tested some of those out for summer reading in 2019, and they were very popular. This is even more achievable, and so now that we have more staff, so we've been experimenting with our Music in the Library series. We have a Medicare program coming up. We have an art program for signups that's in the gathering place, and those are lined up through the end of July and have been pretty popular so far. So we'll do a rundown of all of those, kind of an after action, and see what we can plan for next year. Local history was able to restart the oral history program, and that comes with costs associated with that for audio and videographing and, processing and software and all of the things that go along with that. So pleased that program was able to begin again. We have so many people coming to us with names of people we should interview. In and of itself, that project is a full-time job. And in addition, we continue making investments in our improved IT programs. It has been slow going, the IT department, with an influx of new systems brought on with the pandemic and loss of IT department staff. It has been slow going. And so we continue to be patient, but continue to push for making those changes to upgrade public computers, print management systems, including restoring our wireless printing capabilities for the public, and then tablet catalog stations for all levels of the Harrison Library. We currently have 2 in place right now at the main. At first there was some resistance to using them. Now they seem to be popular, and what I'd like to do is get larger tablets. Those ones are small, and we were kind of experimenting with those so that they're more visible to everybody using those. And, hard copy circulation of materials hasn't rebounded to pre-pandemic levels, but it's slowly starting to increase. And our e-circulation remains robust. And I think that keeping status quo with our hard copy materials budget and the budget for e-resources is really important. And then, we've been up and down over the years with our income. The interest income from LAIF has been all over the map over the last 10 years. You know, the recession, interest rates were down, and then they were starting to come back up again, and then they dropped with the pandemic, and now they're back up to the highest they've been since the 2008 recession. So we're seeing more interest income from LAIF. And so I put some estimates in here for what we're thinking of for interest income, $15,000 for 23-24, based on what we're seeing now for this year, and anticipating maybe a little more up and down next year. For library operations, these are funds that staff take in, including small donations, printing and copying fees, our lost and damaged book replacements. You know, we went from not taking in a whole bunch of money, partly because of restricted hours, to that which was anticipated at being $2,000 to close to $8,000 year to date. So we're estimating $9,000. That might be a little conservative for library operations for income for the next fiscal year. And then I put the Friends of the Library and what's happening with the Friends of the Library in here, because I think it's important to think about not only this upcoming 23-24 fiscal year, but also 24-25, you know, as we start to really come out of the pandemic. Each year, the Friends of the Library hold their annual book sale, and this year, this summer, will be their 50th, but also the last annual large book sale. For fiscal year 24-25, the first year without the annual book sale, the Friends are making plans to continue selling books at the farmers market, which has proven very successful. On average, they're close to, by my estimate, $5,000, $4,000 or $5,000 just for the market alone. But we're also working with the Friends on ongoing book sales in the library. Currently at the Harrison Library, there is a library cart, and all of the sales for that go directly to the Friends, but we're working on something for the lobby at the Park Branch Library to test the waters there. And I think that will prove very popular and generate additional income. But we're still going to see some loss in income overall from the Friends, potentially. And we'll have more of an idea once we get those ongoing book sales set up. But I just wanted the Board of Trustees to be aware that I'm aware of that we might see a reduction in some of our traditional income sources in subsequent fiscal years. And then, of course, the Carmel Public Library Foundation has provided us with a disbursement in the amount of $291,000 for our operations since fiscal year 2015-2016. After working through all of the expenditures, proposed expenditures for the next fiscal year with the treasurer, I did submit a formal request to the Carmel Public Library Foundation for an increase in the annual disbursement in the amount of $50,000. And this was approved by the Finance Committee and the Board Directors when they considered it at their March meeting. I wanted to ask the question first before I planned on proposing what our expenditures were, knowing we would have a shortfall. So that in the event that we decide at subsequent meetings to go, you know, as we comb through the budget to reduce things, then we can let the foundation know that we won't need all of the funds going forward, but we have them if we want and need them, and I think that we do. We're still going to have some kind of one-off types of things in terms of equipment proposed for next year. I still need a new desk. Leslie still needs a new desk. Those kinds of things that won't appear in 24-25. And again, we'll have a better sense when we go into budget process next spring where the Friends are in terms of income, and hopefully the interest income has stabilized. But this is just kind of meant to be an overview of what is proposed for next year. Attached to the staff report, of course, is the line items in each of the sections. You'll see that, increased costs for administration, as I mentioned, across the board, closer to status quo for hard copy material, but definitely an increase in our programming budget as that, again, continues to be a driving force for people using the library. And we can, when Treasurer Krischer is back in May, I anticipate that, and if you have questions before May, please send them to me and to the treasurer so that we can work on getting answers to those, and we'll go in depth, line by line, on the proposed budget and go through that in May.
So we're just looking at, we're not approving it today, we're just
Not
looking at
approving
today.
it today, just taking a look at it, noodling it over, getting acquainted with it, and we'll go and we'll have a discussion. It's kind of how we structured things the last year, which seemed to work well.
Okay.
So, are we going to do this in May? Should that be on future agenda items?
It should, yes.
Okay. And the other, let's see, what was the other thing on the future? Are there any other future agenda items that we need to talk
Well,
about?
can I ask a question on the budget?
Oh, you bet.
Yeah, so the interest income, Friends of the Library, and library operations are actually at risk, because we don't know exactly what those are going to be.
Right.
Which is fine, but you need to account for it, and we've historically
We've been very conservative,
Okay.
yes.
However, it is risk, so if we don't meet these metrics, how do we mitigate that risk?
Well, we can continue to be conservative. Not as conservative as we've been in past years, but we can continue to do that. And I think that if we are concerned about covering shortfalls, we have, in like say 24, 25, interest income doesn't come in like we thought it was, and we're short $2,000. I think that we have library reserves, which we can pull from reserves to cover any shortfall. We could also potentially work with the foundation to say, this exceeded our expectations. Can we have additional funds to what you already provided for us? I'm trying to also, as we work through the operating budget, just like we did last year, make sure that we pull out any thing that could be like classified as a special type of project, like RFID. So those big ticket items aren't in our budget, but I would say reserves or asking the foundation for additional funds, continuing to be conservative with library operations, continuing to be conservative with interest income. And I mean, the other third option is, as we're getting close and we're here at this time in the spring and we're like, oh boy, this is not good, then we will look at potentially cutting areas of the budget. We're not going to do, for the rest of this fiscal year, we're not doing any staff training or signing up for conferences or whatever it is we need to, depending on the amount of that shortfall.
Right. So the as we know, over the years we've tended to underspend rather than overspend. Mm-hmm. And right now we have, just doing a little quick public math, the Wells Fargo reserves end up being about 2 years of the library operations at the proposed amount, not at the new amount. So I guess we could just say that you want to be realistic.
Yes.
But if you miss by a little bit, we do have the reserves. But then that begs the question of whether it's in May or when we get the full board together, what is that minimum limit at which you don't want the reserves in Wells Fargo to go before you go to the library board, the library foundation, or we have to come back and decide we're going to reduce operations? What is that level as we go forward? Should be an agenda item for the future.
I agree. Thank you,
I'm
Phil.
just going to put it in there. I'm not
Yes.
going to put you on the spot today because I don't know what the answer is. I just think we should.
No, and
talk about it.
we did update the financial policy with regards to underspending, but not this particular issue. So I do believe that we should go through the financial policy and make sure that it's adequately addressed in this event. This is the first step that we take. Then this is, potential second step, and go through and spell those things out.
Right. And, the Library Foundation is very supportive, so we could always go back and ask the Library Foundation.
Yes.
And they would support us as long as we're being good stewards. We
Yes.
just need to prove that we're good stewards.
Absolutely.
And they have the megabucks.
Any other questions, John? Do you have anything to say? He's worked so hard on this.
Well, the
Sorry,
thing of
Jeff.
it is, I think, to Phil, what we looked at was the use that the children's library is getting, and Ash and I figured let's be very aggressive this year and go after the foundation for a little bit more funding. as to get started, because the kids programs are going crazy, and we just needed some extra funds and to move forward. And Ashley and I both figured that if we got this year, it'd be all right, 23, 24. But if we went to next year, we would maybe go back to the foundation again and ask for more money, because they may have to, because of Friends of the Library, less money there. So it's going to be, to see how next year works out, we could have to go back to the foundation next year for maybe another $20,000 the way it looks right now. That's my opinion. We keep things going at the present rate we're going, or just cut back on programs. That's something that, as the board itself, is going to have to look at and decide how they want to do it. But Ashley's worked awful hard on this budget, and I like it. And my input to it is, it's just been help mostly. She's done almost everything on it, but I like it the way she's done it so far. So that's all I have really to say.
Yeah, John, I take that on board. We typically underspend every year. I think many years we've underspent more than the library, Friends of the Library provided us going forward, and we just put it into either life accounts or put in LAIF accounts or put it into the Wells Fargo. So I agree. Yeah, the expanding the library operations is important, and if we put it in the budget, as long as the need is still there, I think we should execute that need. We should be pushing up against
Yes,
our
absolutely.
proposed budget, not coming down. But when you do that, you just have to know in your back pocket, how are you going to mitigate it and we have plenty of reserves. We just need to.
Yes.
Thank you. And hey, John, thanks for all the effort putting into this proposed budget going forward. I appreciate it.
Right, I agree.
You're welcome.
So I have two future agenda items here, and that's our nitty-gritty review of the budget and then finance policy with regard to this. Anything else for future agenda items at this point?
Anybody else? Anything for future agenda items?
And I will likely have our kids librarian come and talk about summer reading and the plans for that, as well as adult summer reading and teen summer reading
Good.
in May.
Anything else? Do we just adjourn, or do we need a motion?
We can just adjourn.
Okay. Is there anything else from anybody? All right, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, John.
Bye. Have a great one.